of relationship do you have?
You know that moment when you look into somebody's eyes and you can feel them staring into your soul and the whole world goes quiet?
Yes.
Right, well, I don't.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Bomb Squad Matinee. I am your host and master of ceremony, Tanner Richard Kraft, and with me I have...
Hi, I'm someone who is intimately familiar with Lambert International Airport.
I'm also, somewhat intimately. It's probably the airport I've been to the most. And speaking of airports, we're talking about one of the most famous movies about airports on some level, Up in the Air, the 2009 Jason Reitman-directed George Clooney-starring picture. But before we get into our thoughts on this George Clooney movie, we got a warm-up question for you about George Clooney. Tim, I gotta ask you, what's your favorite George Clooney movie?
So George Clooney is kind of a funny actor to me, because there seems to be a very clear difference between pre-Y2K Clooney roles and post-Y2K Clooney roles. He had his humble starts in the 80s where he starred in 8 episodes of a little show called ER, and then in the 90s he starred in 108 episodes of a big show called ER. He was in a Batman movie that was so bad he personally refunded people for their tickets.
I hear to this day, if you can prove that you bought a ticket to it, he will refund you.
There we go. He had a cameo in South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut.
Damn it! It never gets any easier!
He's got a hell of a resume, but in most of his post-Y2K stuff after, Spy Kids 3D Game Over, most of these are movies that I see the trailer for and I think, ooh, that's a movie that looks like my dad would like it. He makes a dad movie, I guess. I don't know, but I guess
you said that, and I specifically imagined you watching the trailer for The Ides of March.
There we go. But I guess I will say that one of my favorites of his, just one that's fun for me personally, is the Quentin Tarantino written, Robert Rodriguez directed Western horror film From Dusk Till Dawn. It's probably my favorite of Robert Rodriguez's movies. Admittedly, not a super high bar to clear, but it's a fun time. I just really like the kind of concept it goes for of a movie that starts out as a Western and then turns into a horror movie in the third act. That's just really fun to me. It's a good time. And then I'll have some honorable mentions for Fantastic Mr. Fox, which is probably my favorite Wes Anderson movie. And The Men Who Stare at Goats, probably my favorite movie about Jedi warriors starring Ewan McGregor. Back to you, Tanner.
All great stuff. All right, so my favorite George Clooney movie is The Flash.
Let's go.
No, but it is very funny. He played Bruce Wayne again. I still can't believe that happened.
Uncredited.
Yeah.
He probably didn't know it was there until the movie came out.
I mean, he knew what he was filming, I'm sure.
I don't know. It sounded like a lot of weird, shady stuff was happening with that AI shit. Just from what I heard.
But that is actually George Clooney, and I don't know if you've seen The Flash, Tim.
Not yet.
The last thing that happens in the movie is that Ezra Miller's Flash thinks he's returned to his timeline, his present day, and he's going to try and talk to Ben Affleck, Batman. He answers, gets on the phone with him. He's like, Bruce, I'm back. And he's like, Barry, what are you talking about? I'll be right there. And then Bruce emerges from a limo, and there's a bunch of crowd of people around him. And then the crowd of people dissipate, and it's George goddamn Clooney. and Ezra Miller's Flash is like, what the fuck? But it is actually legitimately him in it. He legitimately did film a scene. It's fucking insane.
Okay, fair enough. Because I think Nicolas Cage was like, wait, what?
Well, no, Nick Cage also filmed a scene.
Did he?
He was very excited to see the movie, and then he was like, why the fuck is it all CGI? I filmed shit.
Okay, that's what it was. I heard something was weird with that.
The weird thing is that one of the quote-unquote cameos is a version of John, the first Flash, with the helmet.
Okay,
and, people thought it was the actor that played Reverse Flash in the TV show, but that guy came out and said, I didn't fucking film shit for this. I don't know what that is. So now people are speculating that it's just a wholly CG creation.
Sounds about right.
This is a podcast about Up in the Air. So, sorry. I had to...
Actual favorite George Clooney movie.
It's still The Flash. No, this is a tough question because George Clooney's been in a lot of cool stuff, a lot of great stuff. Spy Kids 3, Game Over, you said it yourself. From Dusk Till Dawn is also great. One that you did not mention that is not quite pre-Y2K. It came out Y2K, but Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yeah, that was another heavy hitter for me. Only considered that one.
It's a fantastic one. And there's a lot of the later stuff Clooney I like. I love Burn After Reading. I love the movie we're talking about today. I actually really like The Ides of March, the movie I talked about. There's also a movie that came out a few years ago called Money Monster that I really dug. I was gonna say The Ides of March, but I eventually settled on Ocean's 11, which, you can argue that's more of an ensemble movie than it is a George Clooney movie. But Clooney's definitely one of the two primary leads of that movie, right?
Yeah.
Even if it is an ensemble, the movie revolves around him and Pitt.
Yeah.
So I settled on Ocean's 11. It's a great heist movie. It's a fun ensemble movie. Don Cheadle does the worst goddamn Cockney accent I have heard in my life in it. And it is the perfect... You're flipping through cable channels and then you realize, oh, Ocean's 11, you're halfway through it. And then you just kind of stay there.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I might as well finish Ocean's 11. It's a great movie for that. It's a great cable movie. We don't really have that anymore. Because who the fuck has cable? Well, you do. But
I
who
do.
the fuck else has cable anymore?
I'm simply built different.
You're built different. You're keeping the TNT movie industry complex alive.
That's right. I'm going to watch those reruns of Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. Give them their ratings.
That, and don't forget, perhaps the most... you can watch it on TNT movie of all time, Captain America, the Winter Soldier. I swear to God, some TNT channel is playing that movie like at least 20% of the time. But we're not talking about the Winter Soldier. We're not talking about the Flash. We're not talking about Ocean's 11. We're not talking about From Dusk Till Dawn. We're talking about Up in the Air, a movie that's a well-remembered movie. It was nominated for 6 Academy Awards. It was one of the, it was a decent grosser for the year it came out. It had critical acclaim. But Tim, I think Up in the Air might be a little special, well, quote unquote special, to you and I for different reasons. When you say so, Tim?
Yeah. Like, I will be honest, this was a movie that, this was a first time watch for me. I hadn't seen it when it came out. But it's one that I had always been a little interested in checking out at some point because it largely takes place in our fair city, St. Louis.
Well, largely filmed. It largely takes place up in the air.
Hey, there we go.
Why would your sister want a fake photo in front of the St. Louis airport?
You kidding? Lambert Field? Wright brothers flew through there.
But yeah, a lot of it was filmed here, and I'm going to get more into that in general discussion, but that was something that was interesting to me about it. And so I watched it, and about the last 15 minutes of the movie, I realized something. This is a really funny movie to be following Twisters.
It is, isn't it?
We got one movie where the male lead runs into an airport to chase after the girl he likes and not kisses her. And then in this one, we have a guy who meets a girl at an airport and becomes fuck buddies with her, and then chases after her in Chicago to find out she's married with children. The lesson for Bomb Squad viewers this week is don't chase women in airports. It ends in blue balls every time.
Blue balls and felonies.
If you feel it, don't chase it.
I'm always saying this.
So I was in the neighborhood.
But that aside, though, this was a good movie. I was not expecting the third act to be quite as heavy as it is.
No, really.
for real, this movie is advertised largely as a rom-com, and I feel like that's debatable because the romantic aspect of the movie felt more like a B plot than everything else going on in the movie to me. You've got the plot of George Clooney kind of realizing that his philosophy is bullshit, and Anna Kendrick coming into herself. Those seem like the more substantial plots of the movie, and the romance kind of feels like an afterthought after those aspects of it. But yeah, it's a good movie, and like that ending point of the movie where it just kind of seems like everything is going wrong all at once. I wasn't expecting, like, everything kind of catches up with him. Like the thing with the romantic interest happens. We find out that girl who jokingly said she was gonna kill herself actually did it, which I kind of suspected might be a thing that would come back to bite them in the ass. But then when it happens, like, damn. And then, like, when they kind of introduce that idea of, like, he's chasing after the 10 million miles, and Anna Kendrick is just like, that's stupid. All you white men just want to put your names on something. You shouldn't be accumulating all those miles. I figured, like, that was gonna kind of play into his whole, like, burn the backpack philosophy thing. And he would, like, realize, I don't need to be accumulating all these miles. I should do something with what I have. But no, he reaches that 10 million, and it means nothing. It is a monument to all of the time he's wasted. Which, yeah, a lot heavier than I was expecting from this movie. So yeah, I am definitely glad that I checked it out. It was different from what I think I was expecting going in, and I'll probably check it out again, and I'll have more to say in general discussion, but I'll pass it back to you, Tanner.
Yeah, all great stuff. This movie does get really kind of dark and heavy in the third act, which I think is part of what makes it brilliant. The fact that it's advertised as a rom-com is a little funny to me. I do think the rom is there, mostly in how unsatisfying it becomes, which makes it not really much of a rom-com. But to me, the com is there in spades. When this movie is funny, you laugh your ass off.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing where, like, when George Clooney is first trying to talk Danny McBride out of his cold feet and he's just fucking bombing it the hell and back is very good.
I do love him looking, and his sister's like, what?
His sister's like, it's great. I think Anna Kendrick's character bursting into tears in the middle of the hotel is it's darkly funny, because you think, oh no, but at the same time you're like, this grown woman is crying like a little girl in the middle of the fucking hotel.
It's the way she's crying. It's so pathetic that you can't help but laugh.
Yeah.
How about just not dying alone?
Starting when I was 12, we moved each one of my grandparents into a nursing facility. Make no mistake, we all die alone. Oh, fuck.
Brian left me.
And then there's the great stuff in the scene afterwards where they're trying to console her, and Vera Farmiga's Alex is just like, fucking settle. And you're laughing at it. Little did you know the movie is foreshadowing the fact that she did settle.
Yeah.
She did just find a nice guy to have kids with.
Yeah.
And that becomes darkly funny. But let me get right into it. This is my favorite movie for the year it came out, 2009. My second favorite movie that year is The Fantastic Mr. Fox that you alluded to earlier, also starring George Clooney. It was a good year for George Clooney stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think what makes this movie special is its incredible screenplay. I think it's perfectly paced. All the character stuff is perfect. The dialogue is perfect. And just, it flows so perfectly without being too predictable. Because the flow is perfect. And then you reach moments like, oh, he hits the 10 million mile mark and it's the most unsatisfying thing ever. And you go, of course he'd hit that. Why didn't I think they would?
Yeah.
Because it lulls you. The movie lulls you into the sense of, oh, I'm just here having a good time. And then the performances all around are fantastic. George Clooney was nominated for Best Lead Actor, and Vera Farmiga and Anna Kendrick both were nominated for Best Actress in Supporting Role. For good reasons. They're all incredible in this.
Mm-hmm.
But you know who else is incredible in this that's really underappreciated? Jason Bateman. You want to know why I say that? because the credits rolled and I saw Jason Bateman's name and I said, huh? Where? For some reason, he's unrecognizable in this movie. It's the beard. I just not recognize him with a beard? Does he just look like a completely different person?
Like, I knew it was him, but I think, like, the first time he shows up, it took me a second.
Yeah. I mean, that was more my reaction first time. This is obviously not my first time watching this. I love this movie. It's been a few years since I've last seen it. So, like, there's a lot of, like, when she gets broken up with, I literally went, oh, God, I forgot about this part. And I also forgot about everything in the wedding, which, fun fact, that high school they're, like, running around in, this ties back into it being filmed around St. Louis. I'm like 90% sure, Tim, that's Afton High School.
Let's go. I live near there.
And then the stuff, like, I think the most remarkable thing is that Jason Reitman tried to make this movie first in 2002. That's when he began working on the screenplay for this. He was gonna make it his first feature film. Instead, the opportunities to make Thank You for Smoking and most famously Juno came up. So he decided to make those instead. And then when he finally got back to Up in the Air, a movie about a guy that goes around firing people, a little thing happened in 2008.
Yeah.
You might be aware of it. It's called The Housing Market Collapsed in America, which, due to a bunch of bullshittery from the banks, caused the global economy to collapse and plunged it into the worst recession we had seen in almost 100 years.
Yeah.
Which made the whole thing about firing people take on a new, like, darker tone. He had to completely rework the film tonally in response to that. And a lot of those things you get of those characters being like, I'm fired? I'm being fired? What? Fun fact, very few of those people are actors. Most of them are people that were asked to sign up for a documentary.
Yeah.
And they wound up just filming those talking head stuff, which really adds to the authenticity of it. And that's what really makes this movie for me. It's the authenticity. It's a very authentic film.
Yeah, that was something that I read in the trivia, was like, they basically told them to pretend the camera's the person who fired you, and just say what you said in that moment or what you wish you said in that moment, which I think is really neat. And, like, I do love the way that they kind of went about those montages where they have those, like, actual, like, real people who were fired in the recession, and then the anchor at the end of each of those is like a face, like Zach Galifianakis or J.K. Simmons.
Yeah, a good way to tell when someone is an actor versus if they were just one of those people that got that interview is whether or not they actually talked to Clooney and Kendrick.
Yeah.
A lot of great little bit parts in this movie by, like, incredible actors. J.K. Simmons dominates a single scene. Zach Galifianakis dominates a single scene. But for me, the true one-scene MVP of this movie has got to be Sam fucking Elliott.
Let's go.
Who's just like, bud, thank you for your loyalty. And, like, George Clooney's just started talking to him a little bit, and Sam Elliott has this, like, air of, this is important. Don't fuck this up. That makes the moment for Clooney feel even emptier. It's great.
It's like, I wanted to meet Sam Elliott, but not like this.
Wasn't supposed to be like this. It was supposed to be on the American frontier. And it really just ties it all up. The fantastic screenplay, the fantastic performances, and the authenticity of it all ties it back into the final end when he's just standing there, looking at all the departures. And then when he just drops his luggage, it's a perfect final shot. Because you're sitting there because he's going to finally do what Anna Kendrick's character told him to do. If you had that many miles, just pick a place and go. I think it's a wonderful movie, almost like a coming of age movie for a very large adult man. Kind of finding himself, discovering himself in a way, and what his life means beyond just constantly being on the go. What would it mean to settle down and have roots somewhere? And I find that to be incredibly powerful, especially as when I was younger, I found myself more in the Anna Kendrick's character's shoes.
Yeah.
And as I get older, I more understand the George Clooney character, with the caveat being, I am probably never going to be that cynical about it, but I am probably where he is at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
But we'll have plenty of more crazy stuff to say, especially about this being in St. Louis, hey, after a brief commercial break. Hi, welcome back from that ad break for another ad. You see that thing right there? Not my fan, but the thing behind it. That's a movie palette. Basically takes up the primary color of every frame of the movie, slices it up into these little vertices, puts it on a pallet for you to display in your home. It's an excellent piece of artwork, both regardless if you know the movie or not. You can get one of your favorite movie or any movie you please by going to moviepalette.com, adding it to your cart. But before you hit checkout, go ahead and enter the code SQUAD15 to save 15% on your order. Let's just get right into it. So, Tim, I remember when you said you were down to do this episode, part of your goals was to try and find actors, local actors you know. Tim, will you tell the audience how that went?
That's right. Like, watching the movie, couldn't see them. But in fairness, there's a lot of people just in the background of this movie. But yeah, I looked on IMDb and I found 3 actors who I know who were in this movie. Number 1 is a man named Joe Hammerstone, possibly
I know him as well.
Possibly the most active actor in St. Louis. He has like 300 IMDb credits. I've worked with him on several projects. Number 2 is
Eric Roberts of St. Louis.
Yeah, exactly. Number 2 is Keith Nussbaum.
I know him as well.
Yeah. Friend of the show, Scott Wisdom, casts him in all of his movies. And he's always a treat to work with. He's always great. He was also apparently in Avengers Endgame. Like, he's just a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent in one shot or something. But yeah, he's always great to work with, and it was cool he was in this movie. And then number 3 is a man named Gus Stevenson, who is one of, in my opinions, the real fucking MVPs of the St. Louis film industry. He's been on, I think, every feature film I've worked on. He even shot one of the interviews for my feature-length making-of documentary for The Man in Room 6. He is one of the sweetest people I've worked with in the industry. He's just talented and just a real MVP. So, to the 3 of you, it's cool that you were in this movie, and I see you. I might not have seen you in the movie, but I see you.
I've never met the third guy.
Well, you should. He's a cool guy.
Yeah, I kept my eyes open to see anyone I would recognize, and I didn't. But there is a cool piece of lore about this movie, Tim, that ties it to our alma mater, Webster University. Are you aware of this one?
I don't think so.
So I literally just found this out today because I was looking into it. Because did you watch the credits all the way through?
Yeah. What the song?
So that original song that was written by a native St. Louisan, you can even hear his little introduction to the director, Jason Reitman, saying, Jason, this song I thought had a lot in common with your movie. So the deal with that is that basically he wrote the song 2 years prior to knowing Reitman was working on a film adaptation to the book. Laid off that time, he was an unrecorded, unemployed St. Louis musician, as a lot of them are. St. Louis doesn't exactly have a thriving big-time music scene, though there's a lot of little pockets. But it's a melancholy song. When he heard that Jason Reitman was doing an interview at Webster University, that's when he had the chance to hand him the cassette tape. And that cassette, including the beginning, is what you hear in the movie. That tape was handed to Jason Reitman at our alma mater, Tim.
Hell yeah. I love that. He's just like, here's my mixtape.
And it worked. What the fuck? I imagine if you're like a film director being like, it'd be like, it's one thing if someone hands you their script. It's like, fuck you, man. Get away from me. If they hand you like their mixtape, it's like, well, I don't normally do this. Well, hell, why not?
It's an ultimate shoot your shot moment, and you gotta love it.
Does it fail 9 times out of 10? Yes. But that one time it works, man.
Truly.
Your song gets to be in a movie that made $160 million worldwide and was nominated for 6 Academy Awards.
Let's go.
Also, pretty decent song.
Yeah, and I think like having that little like intro and then like ending on the cassette cutting out, like that added sort of like a realness to it. Like the
authenticity.
That was an authentic touch that I really appreciated. Like, I kind of figured that, like, it was real, and that it was just, like, something that somebody sent him, but I didn't know who it was. So, like, that's a cool story. So, have you read the book, Tanner?
I'm gonna be honest with you, Tim. I did not actually realize it was based off of a book until today.
Me neither. But I did read something about that in the trivia. So apparently in the book, like there was a plot line about the character getting cancer, and there were theories that like they did have this plot line in the script of the film, and like they introduced it with that "Do you want the cancer?" joke. But I guess that was just like a nod to that plot line in the movie. And I don't know, do you think it would have been better or worse with the cancer thing?
I feel like it'd be too much. There's already surprisingly a lot going on. There's a lot stuffed into the package here. If anything, I feel like giving him cancer kind of like makes it less impressive that he puts his life together. Of course, being faced with the prospect of death would make you click shit into place. It would, I think, lessen the importance of Anna Kendrick's character.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I think it would have been like hitting you with too much all at once, and getting rid of that one just like ultimate bit of it, I think makes it stronger. Yeah, that's me.
That does make the cancer joke kind of make more sense now, because I always thought that's a weird.
Yeah, like it was like kind of funny, but it was also like, what was that?
What are we doing here, man?
And apparently in like the early test screenings, like that was how the movie began, and it just confused the fuck out of test audiences when the movie wasn't about cancer.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea to change it the way you did. Did you know that when they auditioned all the extras for this movie, they did it at the Crestwood Mall that used to exist?
Nice.
It's where there's a fucking like, is it a Deerbergs now? Yeah, that'd be weird if they kept that. I did not know that at all, though. I kind of want to read the book now, though, because to me this movie is so ingrained in the fact that this is following us just coming out of the greatest recession since the Great Depression.
Yeah.
That I'm so curious about how it's contextualized in such a way that it would be not that if when was the original Up in the Air book published? It was published in 2001. It's interesting considering that was considered, I guess the .com bubble had burst recently, but for the most part, that was considered a time of great economic prosperity for America.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about like how it gets recontextualized there.
Yeah. Speaking of differing times and recontextualizing things, just seeing how the revolutionizing of firing people via web call is very funny post-COVID, because I guarantee that shit has been happening every day since 2020.
Easy.
Just hey, you got a minute to schedule a Zoom call? Hey buddy, we're gonna let you go.
Yeah, but you know what I think? I think that Ryan Bigham's character is right. It should be a person doing it to you in person.
Yeah, like I do think that there's a lot to be said about that aspect of his character. And like even he is kind of like talking about how shitty this particular job is. Like he's just like, I'm the guy that people call when they're too much of a pussy to do it themselves. And he's just like, listen, this is the worst day of their life. It doesn't matter how you feel about it. You just need to be strong and like be personable to them. Which I think is, yeah, there's something to that.
There needs to be a dignity to it. Like he said, as someone who's been fired, if it happened over like a fucking Zoom call, I would have been awful. Because I'm gonna be honest, when I got fired, I started crying. I tried not to, but like you can't control it. You're thinking, oh my God, how am I gonna make rent? How am I gonna buy groceries?
Right. Yeah.
I got fired when it was about to be summer. I was thinking my electric bill's about to get more expensive. How am I gonna pay for that?
Yeah.
It's a deeply fucked up job, but if you're gonna outsource it, then yeah, the person doing it should care about the humanity of it. But yeah, I agree. It is kind of funny thinking how, because that is probably a much more common thing now.
100%. Like just, I was reading the plot synopsis on IMDb because like I hadn't seen the movie before. Like I just seen trailers for it, and I knew that he was in an airport and he met a lady. That was about it. But just reading that part of the description is just like he's a guy who fires people, and now they're gonna do it over web call. Just like, yeah, that's 2020 for you.
So, the wedding scene.
The wedding scene.
Did you notice how that scene was oddly shot differently from the rest of the movie?
A little bit.
That's because that ceremony was not shot by like the filmmakers. It was shot by wedding videographers. Which explains why it becomes like a fucking mumblecore movie all of a sudden, because there's so many like weird zooms in that scene that I'm like, what the hell? The camera did not zoom before this. What the fuck is happening?
It's filmed by wedding filmers.
The real filmers of Beverly Hills. Do you think someone other than George Clooney could have been the lead?
Maybe. I don't know.
It's like a very specific niche that the only actor I can think of that can do it is George Clooney.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, he does have a certain, like, specific charm to him. Like, if it were an animated movie, I think you could maybe swap him out with Jason Bateman, but in live action, it's gotta be George. It's
gotta be Clooney. Because I'm thinking of, like, other big movie stars, like Brad Pitt. I think he's too mean.
Yeah, that would not work.
And also, oddly, not mean enough.
Yeah. He's
mean in a different way.
He's too, like, frat boy-ish.
Yeah. Tom Cruise is the only other actor I can think of who could maybe do it, but I don't...
He has too much intensity.
Yeah. Even though he can dial it down, even still, I feel like just... He's not as, like, easygoing as Clooney is.
Yeah.
Which makes it all the more interesting that Jason Reitman had a backup plan in mind for if Clooney passed on the role. Tim, do you know who that actor is?
Bruce Campbell.
Okay. I would really like you to guess, because I do not think you're going to get it. I'll give you this. It's an actor I would consider usually comedic actor.
Patton Oswalt.
Could you imagine?
Let's see. Comedic actor. I'm going to say Matthew Perry.
No, Steve Martin.
Okay.
He would have rewritten the movie if he gave it to him.
Yeah.
And said he would be like what Lost in Translation was for Bill Murray.
Yeah, I could maybe see that. Like, they would have to age up the character to make it work, but I could maybe see that.
Well, now I'm curious how close they are to age, Martin and Clooney.
Steve Martin's one of those... He's one of those
kind of old.
Yeah, he's one of those actors who I'm convinced is a vampire.
Clooney's got 16 years on Martin. Younger.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was not saying that George Clooney was 95 years old. Steve Martin is, however, younger than the current president of the United States.
Yeah.
Well, don't worry. Whoever the next president is will be younger.
Yeah. Not
by
wrong.
default, will be younger. He's got a pretty decent apartment.
Yeah.
I was thinking that when I was logging on, I was like, damn, that's a nice kitchen.
Yeah. Yeah, and like it does kind of play into his whole empty backpack thing. He's very minimalist.
His entire wardrobe, George Clooney's entire wardrobe for the film could fit into a single carry-on luggage bag.
I did think the whole like bit of like the pictures of the sister and Danny McBride and all the different places was funny. Particularly just like seeing them peer out of the luggage, like just
that's a good bit.
I just love Danny McBride staring at you menacingly from within the bag.
You'll forget that Danny McBride is even in the movie, and then you start it, and all of a sudden, George Clooney opens up this thing, it's a cardboard cutout, and fucking Danny McBride is staring at you. You can't help but burst out laughing.
Yeah.
Because I forget every time. And then he says, and it's Danny McBride, and I'm like, what the fuck? Is that Danny McBride?
Yeah, because you don't even actually see him until like 2/3 into the movie.
Yeah, it's near the end of the movie where he actually shows up, which is funny. Great movie. Filmed in the great city of St. Louis. So how many like locations did you recognize? Did you ever like be in the middle of a movie, other than the airport, obviously? Were there any points where you went,
I don't think so. Like, I definitely did recognize Lambert every time they were in there.
Which is like 90% of the airport scenes.
Yeah. But I didn't like recognize the hotels or anything personally.
I wouldn't recognize the interiors usually, but I would recognize the fronts of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's just one specific shot where you can see a parking garage in the background where I was like, this is over by Busch Stadium. That is the Hilton over by Busch Stadium.
Nice.
Because that is the parking garage everyone parks in when they go to see Cardinals games.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't think I've been to a Cardinals game since like 2005.
Oh, so since before the current stadium opened.
Oh, did they change it like between...
Did
they change it between then and the making of the movie?
Yes, the new stadium opened in 2006.
Gotcha.
The Bust a Move guy being in here, that's kind of a good bit, because that's like what a lot of one-hit wonders wind up doing. They wind up being like special stars to these fucking conferences.
Yeah.
So he's all of a sudden it's like, Young MC! This one is for my lady. And I was like, whoa, what the fuck?
Yeah. Every time I like think of that, though, I think of the episode of Scrubs where they have the impersonator just keeps saying "bust a move."
Bust a move.
And JD at one point's just like, part of me wants to talk to her, part of me wants to bust a move. You have a problem, sir.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, this is a great movie, filmed in the great city of St. Louis. Also Omaha and Detroit and Miami.
We'll give Omaha a shout out for Joe.
Okay, for his sake, I'll allow it.
Well, we got one for Joe.
Wait, isn't it Omaha, Nebraska?
I don't know.
Pretty sure it's Omaha, Nebraska.
We got an Omaha in there.
Yeah, it takes place in Omaha. Yeah, but wait a fucking minute. Joe's never been there. Final thoughts?
Final thoughts. This was a solid film. Glad I finally got to watch it. It's one I've been curious about for a while. If you got Max, it's worth checking out. It's under 2 hours. Good comedy, good drama. Surprisingly heavy when it wants to get heavy, but still an overall positive experience. Back to you, Tanner.
You know, it actually reminds me of one last thing I wanted to say, is that I think it's a sign of our irony poison generation that, I don't know about you, but that scene where that woman says, I know what I'm going to do. There's a bridge near my house. I'm going to jump off and kill myself. Because I don't know about you, Tim, but I feel like people our age tend to make suicide jokes a lot.
Yeah.
I laughed.
Yeah.
I don't
and
think
like,
that's supposed to be funny, but it kind of is now.
Well, and like, I think even when they were making that, like, the ideas, we don't think she's being serious. Like, you think it's a fuck you. Which also, another thing I just remembered, in the scene where J.K. Simmons is getting fired and he's just like, what am I going to do about my kids? His real kids, by the way, in the picture.
Yes.
And she just goes, you know, these times of stress often lead to the children developing good academic performance. And he just goes,
Go fuck yourself.
and that is just 100% the correct response.
Yeah, that is the correct response. I don't know what the fuck she was thinking. Well, the point is that she doesn't know what she's thinking.
Yeah.
Up in the Air is a fantastic movie, a fantastic screenplay, fantastic performances that has a very authentic touch that I love for all of those reasons, but also, I'll be honest, I probably love it so much, at least in part because it was filmed in St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know who else was filmed in St. Louis?
Your parents' wedding video.
No, they got married in Houston, Texas.
Sounds like a skill issue.
Yes, but you,
Oh!
the person watching / listening to this episode of Bomb Squad Matinee, if you are listening, thank you oh so very much for listening. We really appreciate it. How about you leave us a review? It boosts us in the algorithm. And if you're listening, how about you mosey on down over to our Patreon? Throw some bucks our way. $5 tier will get you access to a commentary track that should be releasing this month. And the $10 tier will get you access to a special shout out at the end of podcast episodes. To our two $10 patrons, Jason Secord. Thank you again for your continued support as always. And Tanya Kraft, my mother. Thank you also for your continued support, Mom. We really appreciate it. And if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you also very much for watching. How about you mosey on down to the comment section below and let us know, what's your favorite George Clooney movie? What did you think of Up in the Air? Have you been to St. Louis? What's your experience with flying? And finally, it'd be so fucking awesome if you got like a customer service line that like your own private line. Wouldn't that be sick? Comment below and let me know. And while you're down there, hit the like button so we know how much you like us, hit the subscribe button so we know how much you love us, and hit the bell icon so you can know exactly when we upload new videos. Thank you again for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye!
Gonna go get some toasted rails.
Just slid my ticket across the table and I said, sorry guys, I gotta see about a girl.